I mean, it is how fragile our food supply really is. It's kind of scary. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
David, come on up, Texas Park and Wildlife. State your name, who you with, tell us what you're about.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman, committee members. My name is David Yoskowitz. I'm the Executive Director of Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this afternoon. The mission of Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is to manage and conserve the natural and cultural resources of Texas, and to provide fishing, hunting, and outdoor recreational opportunities for the use and enjoyment of 31 million Texans, young and old, rural and urban. So we have primarily two essential things that we do: steward and protect the state's land, water, fish, wildlife, and state parks, and provide and promote safe, lawful, ethical, and compatible outdoor recreational opportunities for all. As an agency, we have approximately 3,200 employees across 13 divisions, with over 75% of our staff located in the field in the communities in which you live and serve your constituencies. 88 Texas state parks, which comprise approximately 650,000 acres, 50 wildlife management areas with 748,000 total acres throughout Texas, and 2 coastal management areas of 8,800 acres. Approximately 1.4 million acres of public hunting lands on 251 locations across Texas, 3 coastal fish hatcheries, 5 freshwater fish hatcheries, 1.7 million surface acres of fresh water, over 191 miles of creeks and rivers, and 4 million surface acres of saltwater that we work on and patrol every day. There are more than 550,000 registered motorized boaters in Texas, 51 million fish stocked in coastal and inland waters each year, and it's worth noting that we released the billionth saltwater fingerling last year in Christmas Bay outside of Lake Jackson. Name of the fish was Billy, small red drum. We expect that it's doing pretty well still in its environment. We have 551 game wardens serving all of Texas' 254 counties and state waters, and 150 state park police officers, which are responsible for the overall safety, security, and protection of visitors to our state parks. Texas and the department are diverse with a variety of constituencies and issues. We have over 9 million visitors to our state parks every year. We have over 7,200 wildlife management plans that we have written to protect and conserve 31.6 million acres of private lands. There are 4.5 million people participating in boating activities each year, and there is a $52 billion direct economic impact occurring from the state's 1.2 million hunters, 2.1 million anglers, 3.6 million sport shooters, and 4.4 million wildlife and bird watchers. There are several issues that are affecting the department and our natural resources, but I will just highlight a few here. Oysters are one of the most important coastal resources, providing food and critical habitat and ecosystem services that enhances the quality of coastal waters and fisheries. In a very short time, our reefs have gone from being sustainable for both commercial harvesting and as habitat for the provision of those ecosystem services to being degraded and unsustainable. However, we believe we are now at an inflection point. The tools that this body has provided the department and private industry are starting to take hold, including establishing oyster farming and the ability to buy back commercial oyster fishing licenses. In addition to that, Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission has adopted rules seeking to streamline the oyster farming permitting process, the expansion of private and restoration leases, and working with partners to reestablish 1,700 acres of reef since 2008, and looking forward over the next 5 years to establishing another 120 acres of restoration reef. Chronic waste and disease response and management remains one of the most important wildlife issues for the department. But in only the second time in the last 10 years, and after months of working with stakeholders, a comprehensive CWD rule package was passed by our commission last month. This rule package balances the concerns of captive breeders with mitigating the spread of the disease across the state. A few highlights of those rule package include the repeal of CWD zones throughout the state, visible identification requirements for all breeders as stated in the statute, statewide carcass disposal regulations, proximity rules for live animal movement from areas where CWD has been detected on the free-range population, and double fencing requirements for new breeding facilities. Next, I'd like to express my thanks to this body for being part of the establishment of the $1 billion Centennial Parks Conservation Fund during the last legislative session. This was overwhelmingly approved by the voters of Texas, and this fund provides the department resources to create new outdoor recreational opportunities across the state of Texas for the next 100 years and beyond. TPWD, along with our partners, has been busy putting the Centennial Fund and the funds for land acquisition provided by SB 30 from last session to work. Since the inception of the fund, it has earned almost $49 million in interest, which will be used to acquire land and build out new state parks. Our land acquisition infrastructure and state parks teams have been busy identifying suitable properties and how they will eventually open for business as state parks. We have several exciting opportunities in the pipeline, and recently we were more than doubled the size of Enchanted Rock State Natural Area, and we have closed on another property that will become part of a new state park very soon. Also, last December, the department translocated 77 bighorn sheep from the Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management Area to Franklin Mountain State Park in El Paso. This is a huge success for the department. For many years, almost 100 years, there hasn't been bighorn sheep in El Paso on the Franklin Mountains. This is the first time they've returned. This is important for us as it is a refuge for those bighorn sheep and will allow us to continue to increase the population across the Trans-Pecos region. And Senator Blanco, you were there joining us with that release. TPWD has several legislative priorities this session that we want to look forward to working with this committee on, including establishing a 50-hour work week for Texas game wardens and state park police, improving processes for contracting and concession activities at Texas state park system sites and wildlife management areas, authority to properly reimburse employees for groceries needed for work travel, better manage invasive species in lakes in support of Texas sport fishing, continuous improvement and updating of the cultivated oyster mariculture program or oyster farming to reflect its growth, and protect landowners from disclosure of hunting and angling locations on private property as digital tagging opportunities are expanded. We have exceptional items asking for a total of $198.6 million and 142 FTEs for the 2026-27 biennium. Includes non-law enforcement capital transportation, critical capital repair and improvement needs at TPWD headquarters, parks, fisheries, and wildlife capital construction and repair, employee compensation, expand and modernize game warden presence and state park police officer presence, agency technology modernization to improve efficiencies, and access to and conservation of fisheries wildlife resource programs, and expansion of the Texas Farm and Ranch Lands Conservation Program. Thank you for the opportunity to present an overview of the agency. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for what you do and the work you do. And Texas is a leader from all accounts. Everybody's looking in with envy as to what you've been provided and the stewardship of it. Senator Blanco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Yaskowitz, we've done some really cool things in our district, moving the bighorn sheep from Brewster County all the way to the Franklin Mountains. So it's wonderful work that you all are doing. We've had several groups reach out to us regarding the vast decline of the native bighorn sheep in an area due to the aoudad exotics. And obviously, these audads carry disease that have vastly eliminated the bighorn sheep. So, can you briefly describe, what the department's doing and if there's anything that you need from the legislature?
Yeah, thank you for that, Senator. The issue is just even a few years ago, we had reached a preliminary goal of having 1,500 bighorn sheep back in Texas after they'd been extirpated for quite a long time. The challenge that we have now is the presence of Mycoplasma ovinpneumonia, which is pneumonia, that aoudad, which are very prolific. They're from North Africa. They were brought over to Texas or maybe around the 50s or 60s. Hard to pin that down, but they carry that, what we call MOV, and it is detrimental to bighorn sheep. So what our department is trying to do with landowners, with universities, with other state agencies is address how we can knock back the presence of MOV. The first thing is to look at taking care of aoudad, but also to look at, are there ways in which we can, through medical and just propagation of more of sheep that could be more successful in the wild, get to a place where we could not have to be in a situation where we'd be facing this.
Great. Well, look forward to working with you, and we'll reach out to you and your agency to see what we can do to be helpful with that. But really looking forward. I know that herd in El Paso County is expected to double by April.
Yes.
Yes. Look forward to hehearing more about that.
Yeah, we have, to that point, Senator, I think there were 48 ewes that 88% of them were pregnant, and so this spring we should have some lambs on the landscape.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions from the members? Senator Hall on the end. Senator's not a member of the committee, but he asked to come and have a few questions regarding CWD and surveillance, some of the new rules, and share a perspective. We're going to have a brief and short conversation, but I welcome any member anytime they want to come before the committee. So with that, okay, go ahead, Senator Hall. No, she's coming in late, so she'll get to the button in a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity. And David, appreciate what you did with the bighorns. That was kind of neat to see that happen down there. But tell me, when did we first learn of CWD in Texas?
Senator, my recollection is that we first detected CWD in a free-ranging population in the Waco Mountains back in, I want to say 2010. I could be off on that date.
2010, about 15 years ago. Okay, today we've got a deer population of just short of 5 million, about 4.7, I think what you have in your report. What was the population of our deer back in the 2010 time frame?
I don't have that figure in front of me, Senator.
Could you estimate? Was it about the same, a whole lot more, a whole lot less?
Yeah, Senator, I mean, without having those figures in front of me, I have expertise here. I have my wildlife director if you'd want to bring him up, but I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay, but along there, what year did we start seeing a significant decline in the number of deer in Texas as a result of?
Well, free-range, low-fence wild deer, is that?
Yeah. Deer in general.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing, if it's, your question is regards to how CWD is impacting deer, we actually, Texas is doing a very good job at holding it at bay at less than a 1% prevalence in the wild, which is where we want to be. And that has happened because of working with the Animal Health Commission, with the department, in order to put in response plans for CWD.
So what you're saying is that what you've done to date has kept CWD from spreading.
I'm saying that working with Animal Health Commission and the work that the department has done, Seems to me that 1% prevalence rate, which is where we want to be, unlike in other states.
Okay. So how many deer are dying each year because they're being killed by CWD?
I don't have that number.
An estimate, just a guess. Best estimate.
I don't have that number, Senator.
Is there anybody? It's kind of significant. We're spending.
I'm happy to get that number.
I would
to you
like
in your
that
office.
because we're spending
absolutely.
about 10 to 50 times more per year than any other state.
Director, do you have your biologist by chance?
Alan,
Do you have
wanna
that?
come up?
Come up, Alan.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those data to those questions? State your name. What you do.
For the record, I'm Alan Kane, Wildlife Division Director in Parks and Wildlife. Senator Hall's first question about deer population back in whatever year you
10 or
were,
11.
2012 is when we first detected in the Waco Mountains. Statewide, the population was in the 4 millions. I don't have the exact number, but 4.3, 4.4, somewhere in there. We don't collect the number of deer. We don't monitor for the number of dead deer out there, the deer that die from CWD. To Dr. Yosowitz's point, keeping a low prevalence is important. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be like Arkansas, Wisconsin, Tennessee, these other states where prevalence exceeds 50%, 30%, whatever it is. At those points, research from all those other states indicates there can be impacts on that population.
So all those states have lost significant size in deer herd as a result of CWD. Is that what you're saying?
There's population declines, and some of the research suggests that survival, for example, Dr. Edmonds' research out of Wyoming shows that survival of CWD-positive deer is 4.5 times lower than not positive deer. And in Wisconsin, they just concluded part of their study shows that when 29% of the doe segment of that population becomes infected, the prevalence rate is like that, they see a declining population because fawn recruitment can't keep up. They can't produce enough fawns because their age structure is low, the prevalence is high enough, they're not able to turn that over.
But you still have no idea how many deer actually die of CWD. The reason I ask that question is because there are many others out there that have been following this, working this for a number of years, that have a whole different theory about CWD, in that a deer can have CWD, but doesn't mean they're contagious, and it doesn't mean they'll ever die from it. Just like you and I can have a cold, and sometimes we're not contagious with it, and some people don't die with it. But to extrapolate from the fact that you have, and then look at the relatively no numbers. I think how many deer have been killed just to test for CWD? It's in the thousands that you've required to be killed and tested. And from the data I've seen, less than 0.2% of those deer that were killed just to be tested positive. I guess I have a hard time seeing that there's the amount of money that we're spending for this compared to what the other states are. And while some other states talk about having it, I can't find where any state has had a decimation of their herds out there. And I guess the real question I have is, what is your plan? What is your goal, and how are you measuring? Anything like this is spending this amount of money needs to have milestones and goals and measures of metric that would show, yeah, folks, this is what we're getting for your taxpayer dollar that we're spending. Here's what we have achieved. So what are your?
That's the last question, but I do think it's warranted since that is one of y'all's largest concerns. What is your ultimate plan? Is it just maintain at the 1%? Because reality is you'll never get rid of it all. So is that a fair objective?
Absolutely.
Is that an objective that's been a goal that's written down somewhere? Or are we learning as we go?
Yeah, we have a management plan to your point, Senator, and thank you when we met a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for talking about that. We have a management plan, an adaptive management plan. Built into it is to review it every couple of years. I've talked to Alan to be able to do that, to put in more KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics of success. But, Chairman, yes, to your point, 1% or less is success
Is a
for
win.
Texas. And
I would suggest this, and Senator Hall's very passionate about where he comes from, and I share perspectives from both of you guys. I have Senator Hall, I see where he's coming because I was there when a lot of the data points prior to last session were sensationalizing. I had the conversation. You don't come to me and say we've had 300 CWD occurrences only to find out you're talking since 2012. Y'all have done a really good job of tightening up the conversation so that we truly know where we're at. One other measure was we had 70-something or whatever, 150 this year. Well, when you looked at the data, as I said, make the data tell the truth, not that you weren't telling the truth, how many of those were already known CWD locations? I mean, deer breeders that were covered up with it. And how when you pulled those out, it was, I think, 2, maybe 3 new cases, if you will. So I'm not debating what is too many or what's not, but y'all have done a better job of getting, I think, a more accurate reflection of where CWD is. So, and I appreciate that. It was an evolution of a culture. It's not all there. You recognized it for what it is. CWD is here to stay. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think we'll ever understand quite how it came and where it's going. At the same time, I do share those that are in the breeder industry's perspective that, here's what we believe, and I do share a mission by the department that's delegated the responsibility for natural resource, that y'all have an obligation. So we're not going to solve this today. That was not the intent. I had a member wanted to ask questions. I think they're valid. Mm-hmm. What I'll commit to you is we'll keep having the conversation. I will say to your point when you said, and I'm a little bit disappointed kind of with some of the ongoing conversation now, the 2019 legislation was monumental from a perspective of the environment both breeders and water parks found themselves in. It was so controversial, so adversarial. Y'all have matured in that conversation where you recognize some of the things that the department was requiring probably didn't make a lot of sense from a scientific day, and y'all have made concessions, breeders made concessions. So y'all have got rules that just a short few weeks ago were acceptable. Now I'm hearing maybe not so much on some levels. So we'll work through that. I will say that y'all had asked and the breeders had asked for me to provide some clarity to 2019. That bill has been drafted, but I am not filing that bill without consensus on both sides that that's still the direction. In a nutshell, I'm neutral. I can hear both sides, and I don't know which one's right. And I don't think we ever will, and I'm not sure science dictates what is right. But at the end of the day, Texas allowed an industry to start 30 years ago. And we said, you can come and play in our world. Y'all have a responsibility to make sure that that did not harm the natural resource of the deer herd. We have this inherent conflict that probably will never be solved in my lifetime, but we got to find a way to make it work. And I think we're probably better in that situation than I've been in 15, 14 years down here. So I appreciate both sides, but at the end of the day, Senator Hall raises valid points. Y'all got scientific data tracking. Y'all's presentation of that data is better than it's been since I've been involved. I don't sense a need to sensationalize the issues, and that was truly where we were at. Y'all are facing facts, and I appreciate that more than you'll know because it shut down the phone calls. Because if you tell someone on the average guy that's kind of leaning on the deer herd perspective, not the breeder side, and you say there's been 200 and something CWD occurrences, and that's all they hear, and they don't recognize that's a backlog from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, I get those calls, and rightfully so, But everybody's I guess where I'm at, everybody's improved. Yeah. And we're probably never going to be happy with one or the other, so that means it's probably good policy. But we'll work through the issues that are still existing. Senator Cocourse.
I'm going to switch to oysters for a second.
Oh, that's not a hot topic. That's not controversial.
But I'm going to come back to deer. So we have... No, you better stay right there. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So when whether it's deer or oysters, I mean, we're talking about property of the people of Texas. Really, it's the property of God, if you want to know the truth about it. And so we've looked at these reefs. There's been a lot of we get a lot of pressure, especially in my waters in Senate District 18. We gave you some ability to shut down that area. A lot of pressure from the Louisiana harvesters. We're trying to buy back some license. You kind of touched on it. Where are we on that?
On the license
Buying
buybacks?
back and
Yeah.
shutting down sensitive reefs, very small reefs that are prolific,
Yeah.
but can be, hit pretty hard by the harvest.
So on the buyback, Senator, unfortunately, it hasn't been as successful as we liked in the past. However, we are at a point now where we have private dollars and philanthropy coming to the table with state dollars to buy back licenses at a rate that we think will get the market moving. So our goal before the end of the fiscal year, working with that philanthropy, is to buy back 150 licenses and keep that momentum going forward.
Well, don't say what an average price is because
I don't want to.
back.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, those that hold these licenses, they're obviously they have some value because we're going to cut down the number of people that can harvest our oysters, right?
Yeah.
And then our reefs, protecting our sensitive reefs, our smaller ones. Where are we on that?
So nice thing that this legislature did last session was allow us to have what we call certificates of location. Industry's been using this for leases, commercial leases to harvest oysters off of. Last session, you all were able to have the governor sign and us put in place certificates of location for restoration purposes. And so beginning very soon here, we're going to be able to have even more reefs restored in addition to what the department's doing in terms of its work, NGOs, universities, individuals, if they want to restore for restoration. Harvest won't be allowed on those. It's just simply for the habitat and the ecosystem services that those reefs provide. And so that is kicking off.
So to the chairman's point, it's we're trying to balance this natural resource with those pressures. I'm gonna stay in water for a second, but I'm gonna go to freshwater, and I have noticed that river otters have come back in great numbers, and are doing what is it? A river otter can eat how many pounds of fish a day? One.
I don't know that.
It's 8, 9, 10
Yeah,
pounds a
significant.
day.
Have a
a day.
significant
Okay,
impact,
so
yes.
they are in and out of our local, our what I grew up calling tanks. You can call them ponds. You can call them lakes. Country Girl calls them tanks. I suspect they're in our public lakes at greater numbers. Some people, Mr. Chairman, some people say they look really
They're
cute.
the cheapest dams I've got, and you're messing with my supply plan now.
No. But this is a real serious question. I mean, because people invest a lot of money in they want to go catch fish out of their tank or lake. And where have we done any studies on that population? And you can literally trap them. You can trap them. Okay, that's legal. And this is a really serious issue. I've talked to a lot of fisheries, and they are very concerned. So have we done any studies? Do we know what that population is, the damage that it is doing to our fish populations?
Yeah, so, and dare I say, I don't want to bring this up, but the cormorants as well.
Okay.
Impact, have the same impact on private lakes and public lakes in terms of taking and feeding on fish. So Tim Birdsong he's our fisheries director. I don't know what the population numbers are now, but I do know it is an issue, and our team is looking at how do we begin to address that, because it is an economic impact to landowners. It's a recreational impact to those that want to go fishing in our public lakes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I would say that I would be very interested if y'all will bring back to me
Absolutely.
some ability to do a study so that we can establish a baseline. And, I can just tell you that, in any given tank in Washington County, you can put out a trap and you might in about 2 weeks have 4. I mean, let me tell you, 4 otters at 8 pounds a day in a tank, they're going to wipe it out.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got no fish left. And then they move on to the next and the next and the next and the next. And I'm hearing from my constituents on this particular issue. I'm going to segue into that. So I really would like to-
We'll come back to you with that, Senator. Yes.
To Senator Hall's questions and to Senator Chair Perry's questions, you know, I have been a part of this conversation with CWD and breeders since probably I came into this building in 2001 or 2003 or whatever it was. And, you know, I've often asked the question, man, why don't we once and for all have a study on this in Texas and get to the bottom of it? And I hear, you know, deer breeders don't want to do that, and those that are for wild deer don't want to do it because they're scared about what the answer is going to be. And so yet, I know, Senator Perry, I think you have, you know, forced the conversation to have better data. But I just don't understand why we can't commission Texas A&M or Cesar Claiborne Wildlife Institute or somebody to say once and for all, let's do it. And I know that we've got data from other states that I read about. I know, you know, I've got anecdotal stuff. I hear from deer breeders about, you know, the heavy hand of government who can come in and kill all of your herd. Of course, that herd is owned by the people of the state of Texas. Everybody has always known that, and we don't argue that, right? But it's just something that I think data has to drive it. And I think both sides of this argument are always scared about what the data is going to produce.
Actually, the data's there. They've got such an extensive historical look back since 2012 of every CWD exposure in a pen and those in the wild that have been tagged as such. And they've got data from probably 30 states across the country of different sorts of metrics or no metrics at all. But I'm saying there's not a study need because CWD in its complexity is we don't know how much it is in the wild. We do have occurrences in the wild. We know we have occurrences in the breeder pens strictly because it's like the flu. If I have the flu and I'm talking to you, you're going to walk away and catch the flu. Probably. If you have a close containment of an infected deer, you're going to have a spread. That has been proved out emphatically. But that said, we don't need a study, but I will tell you the containment zones, the surveillance zones, and all the other things we put in measures weren't probably helping much. And they conceded in that, those last rules deal, to change those to where they're more, I think, accommodating to the reality of we're never going to know everything we need to know, but we're going to prevent for lack of a high-fence deer getting out into the low-fence areas better that may be exposed or may not be. But, I mean, we're just in a good place on what...
And that's the visible tag and
yeah, but the
other
visible
things.
tag, we're not going to have a CWD hearing today, but I'm just telling you, there's plenty of data to support what Senator Hall's questions have been. I've had those same questions. There's also plenty of data to point to what the parks has done, arguably, may have prevented it more. But what we're saying now is we don't know for a fact, but probably what we're doing was an overkill to keep it from printing. I think you're in a good place. I'm just saying I'm not going to have a CW hearing tonight. I've entertained.
But I have one more question.
I do have one question regarding it, though, with herd certification. All y'all have to do is say yes or no. Honest answer. Are y'all working together on this herd certification plan that we brought up in a phone conversation 4 weeks ago? Yes or no, with USDA? Conversation.
We're talking with U.S.
You are talking. Okay,
talking
that's,
with
I
US.
don't need an elaboration. One real quick, because Senator Burwell has a question.
Answer.
I guess y'all did a press release on February the 6th. Texas game wardens uncover illegal white-tailed deer smuggling operation. Obviously, that's of concern. It takes in part of Senate District 18. So do we feel like that's prevalent? This is a one-off? Where are we on this?
Well,
And why would somebody be smuggling deer? I mean, they're just like moving it because we say they can't move it.
I don't know. But
All right. Is it prevalent?
Well, I would, Senator, I would imagine there's an economic consideration there and why they would be smuggling deer. Yes, to your point, there was 2 individuals that were pulled over. Just a game warden, Montgomery County, saw a trailer with deer in it, pulled that trailer over, asked what was going on, found out that these 2 individuals were smuggling deer, and out of that came 71 violations. I have my colonel here to talk a little bit more detail about that.
Y'all can come see me. But
Yeah. There's, I just want to be careful about, there's ongoing investigation, so I want to be careful.
That's all I want to know. This came out, I guess, Friday, I think was your press release, the 6th?
Thursday, I think.
Thursday or Friday, okay. Thank you. I look forward to having a briefing, obviously, Senate District 18 being a little part of that. And,
Chairman Birdwell.
Look forward to working and getting more information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Director, quick update on the battleship. When's she going to be done and where's she going to be parked for people to take a look at?
She's floating. She is, they're getting just some of the work done on the deck and some in the tower, and she's about ready to go. We are in the process of trying to find a place of where she will land. And so we're working with the Wharves Board in the city of Galveston. We have legislative constituency there helping us with that. So hopefully very soon we want to find a place, permanent home for her.
Yeah.
Senator.
A couple of years when she opens or
Oh, I hope sooner than that. We have some shoreside work that'll need to be done, obviously, to accept her, but...
Yeah, like with Big Lex and Corpus, so
Yeah.
we want her to be like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We've got some flat land that's dry that will never, ever let that rust set in again. We'd love to have her up there in case, just asking.
Just not sure how we get it there,
All right.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Senator Hall, I'm going to let you make one final commentary, and then we're out of here. This group ready to go.
Thank you.
I'm ready to go.
Thank you. Senator, of course, you were right about outside. There needs to be somebody who actually knows something about what they're doing, has done extensive research, and A&M has done that. And they have tried to get involved, but they have been rejected over and over again. And the one thing they can say that Parks has accomplished in this 10 years is they have run 60% of the deer breeders out of business. That is what's been accomplished.
I'm not aware of an A&M study. If there is such an animal, bring it to me. Anybody from A&M, if there is such a study, please bring me the study for CWD.
And study those river otters.
And they're so cute. I'm just saying. Guys, thank you for what you do. I wish people could fully get into your world. It's kind of scary to me, just what you're responsible for and how few people you do it. But we've got good partners south of here, south of the border. They keep us in the loop. So we've got good global partners that kind of keep the food supply moving. They don't want a bad deal down there, but it seems like it's always coming from the south. So, but keep up what you do. Appreciate it. And we'll work together on getting the rider for the spading stuff in the right area. I'm not against that. I just know y'all don't need another job. Thank you guys for what you do. I wasn't expecting this to be a CWD session. I thought we were there. Small change. It looks like we're going to have CWD conversations. So we'll get ready and we'll figure out a better way maybe. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chair.
With that, we are adjourned. Motion by Vice Chair Hancock. No other business come before the committee. We stand recessed. Subject to call the chair.